Hello and welcome to the YouTube channel of Kendra Engineering College, Bantwal. In today's video session, we'll discuss regarding ARM embedded systems. So before getting into the ARM embedded system, we'll check out what are the things we have discussed in the previous video session. So if we get back into the previous video session, we have a general idea regarding what is a microprocessor and what is a microcontroller. And we have also tried to know the history of the microprocessor, from where did it evolve and where is it standing right now. And we have also tried to draw a very thick line between a microcontroller and microprocessor. And we have tried to understand very basically how does a microcontroller gets itself differentiated from the microprocessor. So in today's video session, what we are going to do is we are going to study about ARM embedded systems. So you can see here the title says ARM embedded systems. So before studying this embedded system, we'll try to concentrate on this particular topic, ARM. So here ARM stands for Acorn RISC Machine. So you have heard about this name RISC. So ARM stands for Acorn RISC Machine. This is a kind of microcontroller which probably most of us will be using in our day-to-day handheld devices. It may be your palm tops, or it may be your mobile phones, or it may be your laptops, or it may be your remote controls. So most of the devices, whatever we are using in our day-to-day life, has got this particular machine embedded within it. So we'll check out what is this particular topic, or what is this particular ARM all about. So before getting into the embedded systems which is made up of ARM, we need to make ourselves sure that we have got a very good idea regarding ARM or ARM microcontroller. So in fact, before getting to this particular microcontroller topic, what we will do is we will try to recall back the differences what we have studied in yesterday's class. That is the differences between microprocessor and microcontroller. So as we all know, microprocessor is only a processor which doesn't have any peripherals or which doesn't have any memory devices. So when I speak about microcontroller is a complete machine, whereas microprocessor is only a processor which is of very small size. That is why we call it by the name microprocessor. The first basic difference between the microprocessor and microcontroller, as we all know, or as we have already discussed, is microprocessors generally doesn't have any memories or input output pins. It is only a processor. It is purely a processor. When I speak about a microcontroller is an all-in-one processor which has got memory, input output ports, everything integrated on a single chip. So this is what we have studied in yesterday's class. Coming to the second difference, microprocessor usually uses its pin as a bus interface to RAM, ROM and peripheral devices. So if you say this is your processor, so normally processor, what it does is it processes the data. So from where will the data come? The data will come from somewhere externally, or it will come from some external devices, right? So this external devices should be connected to this particular processor. So the connections to this particular external devices will be happening, or it will be happening normally via the pins. That is what it says here. Microprocessor usually uses its pins as a bus to interface to memory and peripheral devices. So memory is something about RAM and ROM. Peripheral devices may be your input and output devices such as keyboard, or maybe LEDs, or maybe 7-segment display. Hence, controlling bus is expandable at the board level, which means that the buses are getting controlled at the processor level itself. When you speak about microcontroller is all in one. So you can say it has a processor here, it has RAM here, it has ROM here, it has input output ports here, or it has got peripherals here. So everything is within this. which means that the controlling of the buses, which is between the processor and the peripheral, will happen within the board. Here it is out of the board, or here it is external to the board. That is what it says here. Or in general, you can say that the devices which give the data to the processor or to the microprocessor are externally located. Whereas here, the devices which are going, or the memories which are going to give the data to the processor, are located within the board. So this is your integrated circuit, whereas here only the processor is present separately and the devices are present separately. The second thing. Coming to the third point here, microprocessors are generally capable of being built into bigger general purpose applications. So what it says here is, you can use this processor maybe in the refrigerator, maybe in the microwave oven, or you can use it in the AC, or you can use it in the mobile phones, or you can use it in the remote controllers or anything. So what you're going to do is, you're just going to remove the processor and you're going to place it in the particular devices, which means you can program this particular processor for any applications, for any general purpose applications. Whereas when I speak about microcontrollers, once it is designed, it will be for a dedicated application. That is, for example, if I say this is a mobile phone, this will always be used as a mobile phone. You cannot use it as anything else, which means that the processor cannot be removed from this particular board. That is what is microcontroller. Microprocessor is a general purpose, microcontroller is a specific purpose. Coming to the fourth difference, microprocessors do not have any power saving systems. Quite obvious, right? When you say it has only a processor, and when I say that it has got no peripherals connected, how can it have a power saving system? Whereas when I speak about a microcontroller, this microcontroller can have power saving system, which means that, for example, if I take a mobile phone, you can reduce the brightness of the screen, which will save the power. You can turn off the Bluetooth, which will save the power. You can turn off the data, which will save the power. That is what it says. This is an individual processor. This is something like a brain. This is something like a brain. This has got only the capacity to process the data, but the data to be processed should be coming from outside. But this here means a human being, which has got a brain, which has got hands, which has got legs, which has got eyes, which has got all the things. So this is an entire system, whereas this is a subsystem. So if you want to make this subsystem an entire system, you need to connect all the peripherals or all the subsystems to this particular subsystem, so that it can work as an entire system. So this is the basic difference between the microprocessor and a microcontroller. So microprocessor is a subsystem, microcontroller is an entire system. Microprocessor, you can remove this brain and you can place it to other human beings. You can place it to anyone. Whereas when I speak about this system, this is dedicated. If you are using this as a mobile phone, it will be used as a mobile phone permanently. If you are using this as a remote control, you can use it as a remote control permanently. If you are using it in the AC, you can use it as an AC permanently. Whereas when I come to this particular device, you can use this particular processor in any of the devices. These are the basic differences between the microprocessor and the microcontroller. So probably this can be marked as important, because who knows, this may be the first question what you're going to see in the question paper. Give the basic differences between the microprocessor and the microcontroller for 4 marks. They will not ask you the block diagram. If you're asking me what is the block diagram, this is the block diagram what we have. They will not ask you regarding the block diagram. They might ask you regarding the basic differences between the microprocessor and microcontroller. Not only this, we have some more differences what we'll check. Say here, the overall cost of the system made with microprocessors are high because of the high number of external components required. Quite obvious, right? When you say it has got only a processor, you need to borrow the memory. You need to take the keyboard. You need to take the mouse. You need to take the LED display. You need to take the 7-segment display. You need to take the sound system. So all this peripherals has to be bought by you people, and later it has to be connected to this particular processor. So this makes the system costlier. Whereas when I speak about the microcontroller, it's a single chip. It has got processor and it has got all the devices what it needs. Because this will generally be manufactured in large numbers, because of which the cost of manufacturing will be less. But here you need to integrate it as per your requirement, which makes the cost of this particular device high. processing speed of the general purpose is normally 1 gigahertz. Why they say the processing speed of the microprocessor is high is generally because it doesn't have any peripherals connected. So it has got only a processor, so normally the processing speed of the processor will be high. Whereas when I speak about this particular microcontroller, the processing speed will be comparatively small or will be less because it has got all the peripheral devices connected. Microprocessors are based on the von Neumann model. You people will be knowing about this von Neumann model, von Neumann architecture and Harvard architecture. Von Neumann model is a model in which the program or the codes and the data with respect to the program are all written in the same memory. So it has got no separate memories, one for the program and one for the data. When I speak about Harvard architecture, the codes are written separately, or the codes, whatever you are going to write, it may be like this. This is your program memory and this is your data memory. Whereas here, when I speak about the microprocessor, it will be a single memory. All your instructions and your data will be stored in the same memory. Whereas here, your instructions will be stored separately and your data will be stored separately. This is what is the difference between your Harvard and von Neumann architecture. So basically there are 7 differences. So they might ask you to write any 5 differences for 5 marks. They might. It is not compulsory that they should ask. They might ask you to name any 5 differences between the microcontroller and the microprocessor. So moving on further, when I speak about, or as the title says, it is ARM embedded system. So moving on further, because my title here says that it is ARM embedded system. So as I said, I need to know about this particular ARM, or I need to know about this particular device, or I need to know about what is this particular ARM. So we'll try knowing what is that particular thing. So this ARM processor, it's the ARM or Acorn RISC machine is a kind of processor which basically in the modern age is the key component of many successful 32-bit embedded systems. Knowingly or unknowingly, I would have used it. See here, they say that ARM cores are widely used in mobile phones, handheld organizers, and a multitude of every portable consumer devices. Which means that knowingly or unknowingly, I have used this particular ARM processor in my day-to-day life. So that is why they call it as a key component. Uh, Going back to the history of this particular ARM processor, going back to the history, where exactly it was done. The first ARM prototype was developed in 1981 and the name was given was ARM1. Why this particular ARM machine had lot of success in the industry or lot of success in the academics was, it was a simple and powerful original design which can be improved day to day based on your constant technical innovation, which means that the very basic ARM prototype which was developed in 1985 has got its originality, but there are some additional features which are being added to this particular ARM machine. Actually, the very first ARM machine which was used by the industries, this was the first one which was developed, which was used by the industries for their uh, embedded systems was ARM7 TDMI. This is actually, or in fact existing even now, which provides a speed of 120 dry stone million instructions per second, which has got high code density and lower power consumption. We'll check into this, what do you mean by high code density and lower power consumption. And this particular ARM processor is ideal for mobile embedded device. Mobile embedded devices doesn't mean that it is a mobile phone. It is most suitable for the handheld devices which can be moved from one place to other place. Maybe your remote controls, maybe your mobile phones, or maybe your music systems, maybe your iPhones, maybe your iPods or anything. So most of the devices here has got ARM7 TDMI has as its processor. So this is regarding the basic evolution of your ARM, or it is regarding the basic uh, history of your ARM processor. So what we are going to discuss in the first chapter is we are just going to check out, or we are just going to check out what is this ARM all about. What are the specialities or what are the very special qualities of this particular ARM processor. So the first thing what we need to check out here is almost my all ARM processor uses RISC architecture. So you people may be knowing about this RISC architecture. Reduced instruction set computer architecture. So most of the machine here uses here RISC architecture. So basically what is this RISC? So RISC is a design philosophy that is aimed at delivering simple but powerful instructions that execute within a single cycle at high clock speed. So that is what is reduced instruction set philosophy or reduced RISC design philosophy is all about. When you say that, sir, I'm going to write an instruction. When you say that, I'm going to write an instruction, I'm going to write an instruction, my RISC machine will take care that this instruction will be executed in one machine cycle. It will be executed in one machine cycle, that too at very high machine or very high clock speed. So it's given here. RISC is a design philosophy that aims at delivering simple but powerful instructions that execute within a single cycle at a high clock speed. So for example, if you write five instructions here, this five instructions will get executed in five machine cycle. What is the other architecture? The other architecture is CISC, complex instruction set computer architecture. So if you are writing those same five instructions in this particular CISC machine, probably my CISC machine may take five machine cycle. Also the execution time might be comparatively slower than compared to the RISC machine. That is what is your RISC philosophy. The RISC design philosophy basically concentrates on reducing the complexity of instructions performed by the hardware because it is easier to provide greater flexibility and intelligence in software rather than hardware. So what my RISC basically concentrates on. So let's say that I need to perform a particular task. Okay, please concentrate. I need to perform a particular task. So when you say that you need to perform a particular task in a RISC machine, so what this RISC machine will do is, my RISC machine will make sure that most of the task what is to be performed will be written as a program itself, because my RISC machine believes in it is easier to give flexibility to the task at the software level than at the hardware level. It says that it is possible to provide flexibility to the task at the software level rather than the hardware level. That is what, or that is why my RISC design philosophy is, or it has been adopted by most of the industries. So what happens here is, as you know, as I said that if a task has to be performed, my RISC machine says that, see, what you do is you write some codes for that. You write some codes for that, so that I do not have to buy the hardware components. I do not have to concentrate on the hardware. Let's try to finish up the task in the software level itself. Let's try to finish it in the software level itself, so that you don't have to concentrate on the hardware or hardware interfacing or hardware connection to the machine. This is what my RISC says. So as it concentrates on providing flexibility at the software level, what happens here is, my RISC machine most of the times concentrates on the compilers. I have told you regarding the compilers and assemblers, isn't it? So what this compiler does is, my compiler will be converting your high level languages into the machine level language. So you are writing the code in the high level language. This high level language has to be understood by the machine, right? So it will be providing greater, or it provides greater demands on the compiler, saying that, see, most of the task what I have to do, I have written it in terms of the codes, but make sure that all these codes are getting converted into the machine code, and my machine will be executing this particular instructions. So the tradition, but what happens in case of your CISC machine is, in CISC machine, if you want to perform a particular task, my CISC machine says that let's concentrate on the hardware. Let's try to concentrate as much as hardware components required. Let's not concentrate on the programs. Let's not concentrate on the programs here at all. Let's concentrate on the hardware. This is the basic difference between the CISC and RISC machines. So reduced instruction set machine says that your instructions will get executed in one machine cycle. First thing. Second thing is, RISC machine will always concentrate on the software, or it says that you write a program. Hardware part, let's see. Let's try to minimize the hardware components whatever we are having. Whereas my CISC machine says that, see, you try to reduce the program what you are going to write. I'll provide you the hardware components as much as needed. That is what it is saying. Reduce the complexity of the instructions performed by the hardware. It is easier to provide greater flexibility and intelligence in software rather than the hardware. Places greater demand on the compiler. All the things whatever I've explained here has been given here. So my RISC design philosophy basically believes this. You write a program. Let's say let's make sure that the program whatever you are going to whatever you are written will be getting converted into the respective machine language. After machine language, let's see if it is not possible, then let us try to keep some hardware components. Other than that, you need to concentrate on the software itself. Moving on further, let's check out what are the design rules of this particular RISC design philosophy. So basically, when I say that you need to concentrate on the software, there should be some rules, right? When you're writing the program, there should be some rules. So let's check out what are the rules of this particular RISC design philosophy. This particular diagram gives you the general idea, whatever I've explained here. See here, when I speak about my RISC machine, in my RISC machine, complexity is provided to the compiler. My compiler has to convert every program what you have written into the machine code. Whereas in case of your CISC machine, compiler is a free going man because he doesn't have to concentrate more on the software, because here concentration is given on the hardware. Here the concentration is given on the software. Here they say that I'll perform the task using the hardware component. Here they say that I'll perform the task using the softwares. This is what is the basic difference. So if you want to check out the difference between the CISC and RISC, a table has been given here. See here. CISC, complex instruction, simple instruction, multiple clock cycle, single clock cycle, emphasis on the hardware, emphasis on the software. Complex instructions, instructions executed by microprogram or processor. Reduced instructions, instructions executed by the hardware, RISC, that is using the compiler. Variable format instructions. So in the case of your CISC, whenever I write the instructions, I need not take care that it should get executed in a single machine cycle. It can get executed in 2 or 3 machine cycle. Whereas here, it's a fixed format. I need to make sure that every instruction gets executed in a single machine cycle. Many instructions and many addressing modes. Addressing modes also you would have studied. Direct addressing mode, indirect addressing mode. All these things you would have studied, which we will revisit again. Here, instructions are fixed and very few addressing modes. Conditional jump. So it is usually based on the status of the register bit. You know there are flag registers. So based on the status of the flag registers, it will be jumping. Conditional jump can be based on the bit anywhere in the memory. Memory reference is embedded in many instructions. Memory references is embedded in load store instructions, which means that in case of your CISC machines, I'll explain only this, the instructions are moved to the processor. Whereas in case of this, you have a processor, you have data memory and you have program memory. The program or the instructions or the data will never be moved to the processor. The processor will act on this particular program or instructions or on the data in the or in the place where they are placed. That is the difference. So memory reference is there here. Memory reference is embedded in load store instructions. We'll check out what is this load store instruction. But in fact, I can say this is also an important table which you need to know. They might ask you to differentiate between the CISC and RISC machines. Generally, you can say RISC is reduced instruction, but it always looks beautiful if you go with the table, because this fetches marks for you easily. Because if you write 7 points here, it has 7 marks. So if they ask for 5 marks, you can stop here. This is what it means. Moving on further, as I said you, when I speak about my RISC design philosophy, there should be some rules which should be followed. So basically, my RISC design philosophy concentrates on instruction, it concentrates on pipeline, it concentrates on registers, and it concentrates on load store architecture. So these are the 4 important things what my RISC design or RISC design philosophy concentrates on. Moving on to the instructions. So normally, as I said you, RISC processors have a reduced number of instruction classes. If you remember, somewhere I said if you go to your processor 8086 or 80851 or somewhere, it has got around 2 million instructions. Whereas if you speak about a RISC machine, reduced number of instruction classes, which says that it has somewhere around 20,000 instructions, which is comparatively easier for a programmer to remember. And moreover, this classes provide simple operations that can execute in a single machine cycle. As I said to you, this is very important. Every instructions, whatever you are going to write, should get executed in a single cycle. The compiler or the programmer synthesizes complicated instructions by combining several simple instructions. I'll explain this. Each instruction can execute in a single clock cycle. For example, let us say that I have written a program, okay? I have written a program. So this program will go to the compiler, and what my compiler will do is, my compiler will synthesize this instruction, or it will reduce this instruction to a machine language which will get executed in a one single machine cycle. That is what it says. Each instruction can get executed in single clock cycle. So here most of the task in case of your RISC machine is on the compiler. Your compiler should make sure it reduces every instruction will get executed in a single machine cycle. See here, compiler bar programmer synthesizes complicated instruction. Synthesizes here means reduces. Suppose if you have got a division instruction, suppose if you have a division instruction here, the compiler will make sure that this division instruction is broken into simple mathematical instructions which will get executed in one single machine cycle. Each instruction is having a fixed length which will allow pipeline to fetch future instructions, which means that let us say that I have a memory, okay? I don't know whether you people will be able to grasp this at this level or not. So let us say I got a program memory. I have written the programs, or the codes are stored in the program memory. What your compiler will do is, this is a program, raw program what you have written. This is your compiler. This is your compiler. So the instructions will come to the compiler. From the compiler, it will go and get settled in the program memory. What your compiler will do is, your compiler will make sure that your each instruction will be broken down to an instruction which is having a fixed length. Why it should be made of fixed length is because when you say there is a processor here, my processor will be fetching instructions from this particular memory, right? So what my processor will do is, it will fetch it from here. After the first instruction is executed, my second will be fetched, third will be fetched, fourth one will be fetched, and the fifth one will be fetched. But as you all people know that, from the memory, my instructions will go to the processor and will get stored in the cache memory. I had explained regarding the cache memory to you people yesterday. In the cache memory, it is not that my first memory has to be fetched, it has to be decoded, it has to be executed, or it has to be stored back, isn't it? Something like that, isn't it? It has to be fetched, it has to be decoded, it has to be executed, then it has to be stored back. These are the cycles what normally instruction execution will have. So what has to do? Your processor will fetch the instruction, later it will decode the instruction, later it will execute the instruction, and later it will store the data of that particular instruction to the memory where it has to be stored, isn't it? Now, imagine when the first instruction has been fetched, what will happen to the second instruction? See, it will take some time duration. See, if the first instruction, for example, let me say that if it takes 4 seconds, uh, first say second it will fetch, second second it will decode, third second it will execute, fourth second it will store it in the memory. Now, what processor normally will do is, your processor will have some process called as pipelining. You know this pipelining process. So when the first instruction is getting fetched, second instruction will not be fetched. When the first instruction is getting decoded, second instruction will be fetched. When the first instruction is getting executed, second will get decoded, third will get fetched. When the first instruction is getting stored, second will get executed, third will get decoded, fourth will get fetched, where there is no wastage of time. This is what is called as pipelining. So what normally your compiler will do is, the compiler will break down the instruction to of the same length, so that pipelining can be enabled. Whereas in case of your CISC processor, the instructions are often of variable size, and may take many cycles to execute. For example, you say there are 5 instructions here, it might take 5 cycles, for example. Whereas if the same instructions are written to the uh, CISC machine, it might take 7 machine cycles. Because every instruction is of the variable size. Your compiler will not break down the instructions, or it will not reduce the instruction to same size. So this is regarding your instructions. So when writing the instructions to the RISC machine, you got to make sure as far as possible you are going to write the instructions of the same size which can get executed in a same machine cycle. Sir, I cannot do that. How do I do that, sir? No issues. Your compiler will make sure that the instructions are getting reduced to of the same size. Second is pipelining. When speaking about pipelining, when speaking about the pipelining process here, I told you pipelining, isn't it? The process of instructions are broken down into smaller units that can be executed in parallel by pipelines. I've explained that, right? So let's say that this is your pipeline, okay? First instruction is fetch. This is decode. This is fetch. This is decode. This is execute. This is execute, and this is store. In the second machine cycle, second instruction will be here. First will be here. In the third machine cycle, first will be here, second will be here, third will be here. In the fourth machine cycle, first will be here, second will be here, third will be here, and the fourth one will be here. Isn't it? This is what is pipelining. So normally each and every RISC machine will be having pipelining. Processing of instruction is broken down into smaller units. Instructions are executed in parallel by pipelines. Pipeline advances by one step of each cycle for maximum throughput. Always what should happen, you know? See, first is fetched. In the second machine cycle, it will be decoded. In the third machine cycle, it will be executed. In the fourth machine cycle, it will be stored. Getting it? After that, in the fifth machine cycle, second one will be fetched, which means that the time taken for the execution of the instruction increases. So what they do is, they keep the instructions in the queue so that there is no wastage of the time, or your processor is not going to stay idle. It is not going to stay idle at all. That is what is regarding the pipeline. Third one is registers. Normally in case of your ARM processor, there are 32 registers. We'll check regarding this registers later. There are 32 registers. So, and every register is a general purpose register. You cannot say that register 1 is used to store the data, register 2 is used to store the program, register 3 is used to store the control signals. No. Every register is a general purpose register in which you can store the data or the program of your choice. There are large number of general purpose set. Any register can contain data or address. Registers act as fast local memory to store or process all data. That is what it means. CISC processors have got dedicated registers for a specific purpose. For example, when you say that you need to store data in case of your RISC, you have one register. You need to store the program, you got one more register. You need to store the control signal, you got one more register. Whereas in case of your RISC machines, it is all general purpose. So you can store anything wherever you want. This is regarding your general purpose. Last one is load store architecture. So what normally happens? You have your data stored in the memory. You have your data stored in the memory. You have your processor. So this data has to be loaded to the processor, processed here and stored back. This is how it happens. Processor operates on data held in the registers, quite obvious. Separate load and store instructions transfer data between register bank and the external memory. Separate memory access from the data processing provides an advantage because you can use data items held in the register bank multiple times without needing multiple memory access. So what it actually means is, normally in case of your processors, or normally in case of your RISC machine, the processor will be processing the data as they are in the register itself. It will not draw the data from the registers to the processor. When it draws the data from the register to the processor, it needs memory here, right, to store the data. It needs memory here. So that is not happening here. Separate memory access from data processing provides an advantage because you can use data items held in the register bank multiple times without needing multiple memory access. Whereas in case of your CISC design, the data processing can act on memory directly. This is what is the difference. So in case of your CISC machine, in case of your whatever I said, just recall that. In case of your RISC machine, the data from here will be moved on to the processor. Probably I told in the other way, the data from here will be moved on to the processor, and it will be processed and it will be moved back to the memory locations. Whereas in case of your CISC machine, my processor will directly act on the data that is stored in the register, and it will store the data in the or processed data back in the register. In design rules allow the RISC processor to be simple and the core can operate at higher clock frequency. In contrast, traditional CISC processors are more complex and operate at lower clock frequency. So four things has to be remembered. One is regarding your instructions. When you are writing instructions, you got to make sure all the instructions are of the same size. Second one is regarding your pipeline. You got to make sure that your RISC machine has got pipeline. Third one is registers. Fourth one is load store architecture. Load store architecture is all about moving the data from the registers to the memory, process the data in the memory, and moving the data from the memory back to the registers. Whereas in case of your CISC machine, the data will be processed in the registers as such. So all these particular design rules, whatever we have studied here, makes the RISC processor simple, and this can make your core operate at higher clock frequencies. Whereas in case of your CISC machine, operation frequencies are comparatively higher. But remember, nowadays what has happened is, even the RISC machine what we have has implemented most of the properties of your RISC machine. So basically the difference between the CISC and RISC as of now is very little. It is very little. It has already implemented most of the properties of the RISC machine, because quite obvious, right? Don't you expect your machine to be operating at the highest speed? Yes, I expect it. So normally your RISC machine has implemented almost all the properties of the RISC machine. Maybe one or two properties of the CISC machine is still as such. So we'll wind up with this. Maybe in the next video session we'll discuss more regarding your ARM processor, or we'll discuss a lot regarding your ARM processor. Thank you.